What's up, everybody? So, is this the start of the Deshaun and James's version of PTI here on YouTube? Deshaun and I have talked about going back and forth before. Um, Not necessarily in heated debate, but we've talked about ideas on YouTube, and this is my first response to him. So maybe this is the start of going back and forth, but we'll have to wait and see. Um, Thought you might get a kick out of that, Deshaun. Okay, so basically, Deshaun responded to my last video in regards to talking about the Seattle Sounders and looking at the season coming up and also winning the U.S. Open Cup. So I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more on what about where I stand on the U.S. Open Cup, and then I'm going to touch on something else that he brought up in his video response. So basically, with the U.S. Open Cup, this is kind of my conclusion. So if I end up posting and talking a little bit more about it, so be it. But as of right now, this is kind of what I have to say in conclusion about the U.S. Open Cup. All right, so part one of this video, U.S. Open Cup. Deshaun, I agree with you in terms of the U.S. Open Cup. Again, is not the big championship. Okay, it's not what here in the U.S. It's not the MLS Cup. Okay, the MLS Cup is the big, almighty championship. I completely understand where you're coming from with that. And if I had a choice, I would like you. I would much rather win the MLS Cup than the U.S. Open Cup. Okay, completely understand. However, you are kind of like the way I am with the Seattle Mariners. Okay, you know a lot more about soccer than I do as of now, and you, like with the Mariners, are still learning baseball and the strategies, the stats, and things about the game. And so that's where I kind of am with soccer. That being said, with the Sounders doing well with the U.S. Open Cup and continuing to do well with the U.S. Open Cup allows people who are relatively new to soccer, such as myself, and the average sports fan, which I know we've talked about ad nauseum, but it allows us to educate ourselves more about the world's games and about other teams in the U.S. and other teams around the world. I mean, because of the U.S. Open Cup, because of the Sounders winning the U.S. Open Cup, I now know teams are, in San Francisco, Panama, and some more international teams that I didn't even know existed. And without the Sounders winning that U.S. Open Cup, if they didn't do that, well, then the average person wouldn't know, they wouldn't know more about the game of soccer and more about the Seattle Sounders and what they're ultimately trying to do in Seattle. Again, with us winning the U.S. Open Cup, we get to play in the Champions League. And we get to face international teams. And as far as I know, from what I've read, we've actually done pretty well in the Champions League compared to other MLS teams. And we've, average sports fans and relatively new soccer fans can learn how that tournament works. And ultimately, when you are developing a brand new fan base, I know some people may say this fan base was already there, but when you're trying to get the average person interested in soccer, winning this exhibition tournament is a great way to get your name out there. And I mean, if the Sounders do go one and done in the U.S. Open Cup, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the average Seattle Sounders fan would probably say, well, it was a fun run. We won 3 times in a row, and we'll deal with it next year, and we'll focus on winning the MLS Cup. And that will be that. We'll probably take it and just kind of let it go. So, again, it educates the average person about the game of soccer and about the organization, which is going to do what for your organization? It's going to allow you to make more dough. Secondly, I can completely understand where you're coming from in terms of the Seattle Sounders not playing well in the aggregate format, in both the Champions League and in the MLS playoffs. Completely understand, but I'm going to throw this out there. With us winning the U.S. Open Cup, it allows us to continue to play in the aggregate format, which means we're going to get more experience playing in the aggregate format, and maybe this year that can help us turn a corner to the point where we can finally get past that first round. Now, I know that that's easier said than done, and I bring that up because for many years, my Central Washington Wildcat men's basketball team got to the NCAA Division II tournament and was always one and done. And they did that 4 years in a row to the point where I was like, how much experience do you need? I mean, you've gone to this level of competition, this many times. And I know we've gone to the first round of the playoffs 3 times in a row, which is a long streak. It is for any Seattle sports. It's a long streak. But maybe if we continue to do well in the Champions League and we continue to play in that format, the team can get used to playing in the aggregate format. So when the MLS playoff time comes, well, we may have an advantage and may have a better idea of what we are supposed to do in order to put together 180 minutes worth of soccer. So I think that argument, it just, thinking about that right now, that's kind of a weak argument, but trying to be a little bit optimistic here. So that's pretty much what I say about winning the U.S. Open Cup and that type of deal. That's pretty much my conclusion for that. The one thing I do want to touch on is that you brought up is if the Sounders do not get out of the first round, you think it might be time to change, to have a coaching change, Siggy Smid. I completely disagree with you on that. I just absolutely completely disagree with you. Just because this team does not do well in the postseason does not mean we need a coaching change. As far as I know, and this could change, but as far as I know, the Emerald City supporters still support Siggy. And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe the supporters actually have a say in who they want as their head coach. So that could change. But I know that Jim Roth and Drew Carey and the ownership have made it so that way the Emerald City supporters have a say in who's coaching the team. But as far as I know, everybody is pretty is not satisfied, but they like where Siggy Smid is taking this team. And so not only that, you just re-signed him, to a contract extension. So it would be very foolish to get rid of the coach that has really set a foundation for the Sounders to be successful, not just this year, but in previous years. And secondly, the reason why I don't think we should get rid of Siggy Smid, regardless if we get out of the first round or not. Siggy Smid's teams have a tendency to go down immediately when he leaves. I know the Los Angeles Galaxy just won the MLS Cup, and they've gone to 2 MLS Cups 2 out of the last 3 years. I understand that. But it took them years after, Siggy hoisted up the MLS Cup with the Galaxy. I can't remember if he got fired or if he left. But either way, he was not on the team anymore. And the Galaxy never even sniffed the playoffs. They went downward. They probably had a lot of some other issues outside of a coaching change. But then you look at Smid's next stop, which was the Columbus Crew. The Columbus Crew won the MLS Cup the year before the Sounders came in. And ever since then, as far as I know, they've kind of been like this. Not only that, they won the regular season championship, and then they lost in the aggregate format in the playoffs one year. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. But my point is if you let Smid go, the Sounders could, seriously, the Sounders might as well go ahead and start a rebuilding project at this point, because then you're going to have to bring a new coach in. He's not going to be coaching his players. He's going to be coaching Smith's players. He's going to be teaching them a brand new system that the players are not used to at this point. And yes, the Sounders are a great regular season team and struggle in the playoffs. But, I mean, heck, my Seattle Mariners, as you know, I mean, they're not even close to competing for an American League West championship. The Sounders, as we at least, are at the point where they know they're going to the playoffs. It's just a matter of what seed they're in. And I don't want the Sounders to go in a rebuilding mode just because they got rid of the coach. And I seriously, I really do think if they got rid of Smid, that, I mean, you'll see different formations. You'll see in terms of, style play, in terms of zone defense, like 3-4-4, or 4-3-4, those types of formations. The players would have to learn a new style of play, and I can understand what you're saying. Seattle likes to keep their own, and that's that's a huge argument. That's a good point, but at the same time, Smid has already done so much for this team, to the point where if you did get rid of him, I can see the Sounders going like this, kind of like what the Columbus Crew and the Los Angeles Galaxy experienced when Smid left those teams. So keep Smid, regardless if the Sounders win that first round or the first round of the playoffs. Now, granted, if the Sounders don't go far in the playoffs this year, the Emerald City supporters could change their minds and stuff. But as far as I know, people really don't have a problem with Smid. So if you're not going to have a problem with Smid, why get rid of him? So that's just my take. So there's your response you were looking for. Go ahead and throw me one if you got time. Happy St. Patty's Day to you, and let's go Sounders. Thanks very much for watching.